All right, here we go. Welcome, Euro fans, to episode 217 of the Nerd Extravaganza podcast, where all of our games go on and on for hours and hours. Today we have a very special guest, David Chircop. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yeah, Chircop is fine. In Maltese we
Chircop.
say Kirkop, but you don't have to
Okay.
say that.
Kirkop, no problem. David Kirkop, all the way live from Malta, here today to share his insights and understandings about the board game industry, and also, of course, talk about his new game, Days of Ire. And we'll start off with our introductions. I'm Cam,
I'm Brian.
and
And I'm David.
of course, we have David. Perfect. And we want to remind you, viewers and listeners, to head on over to iTunes. Check us out there. Subscribe. Give us maximum stars. Leave a comment. We'd love to hear from you. Or send us an email at nerdstravaganza@gmail.com. We are going to start off. Tom, by the way, is not here for the night. He got roped into some homeowner duties with some kind of emergency meeting with his homeowners association. So we're sad to not have him. I'll be taking over his hosting duties. Hopefully not doing too bad of a job of it. And I'll kick us off in our usual style with our geekly weekly roundup. David, I'll let Brian go first so you can sort of see how it goes, and then maybe after that you can jump in and let us know what your week's been like. So Brian, why don't you kick us off?
I've never really done this before. I'm not like a big Netflix, Hulu kind of person, but I got Amazon Prime recently.
Sweet.
And I have been watching just old 80s television, like back to back for like a week now. So I've Robotech especially. Robotech's on Amazon Prime, and God, I love that show, and I can't believe how good it still is, and I can't believe how much time I spent on it this week. Not like as a kid. I mean, now.
What else besides Robotech have you been checking out?
I actually watched just a couple of movies that like my old favorites. There's this movie called Beautiful Girls that's about like a artist pianist who's getting ready to like settle down and make money, and he's debating. Great movie. It's kind of like a 30-something coming of age. Doctor Who, I think like all of Doctor Who is on Prime, which I didn't even know. I was pretty surprised about that. I'm catching up on, I guess, Eccleston. That's the kind of bald thuggish.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean I never watched those years ago, so it's all new to me.
It's on Prime for free? I thought it was pay.
No.
Really?
I mean I'm paying for it, so.
No, I meant like per episode. I didn't know it came with the Prime service.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna have to go back because I was pretty upset when they took it off Netflix. Yeah. So I'm gonna check that out.
And Robotech, like I don't need anything else.
Very cool. So that's it. That's your Robotech all week.
That is a
Robotech.
good portion of my week. A little bit like I guess this game came out recently, like actually released. Have you heard of Mighty Number 9?
Yes, I have. I've been watching reviews and trailers again today. I'm still on the fence on it.
It's like down the middle. 50% of people like hate it, and 50% of people absolutely love it.
Yeah.
And it's a Kickstarter, Indiegogo crowdfunded project, which I love. But it also kind of shows the problems with that because all of the backers were like, oh, it's taking forever, get the game out. So they just like kind of rushed it a little bit and released it, and now all the backers are like, this game sucks! Well, pick. Good, cheap, or fast, right? You get two?
That's funny.
Well, fast is a bit of a statement. I mean, it has been 3 years, which is okay. I guess. I mean, 3 years is quite normal in terms of as far as video game development cycles. Big game by any means, or somewhat advanced graphically in any means. So 3 years. I don't know how big the team was, of course, but 3 years is relatively still a long time for a video game development cycle. Depending, of course, if this was done as a full-time project or if it was done by a small team in their free time, right? So it kind of depends. But if they got that much money from Kickstarter, I would assume we were full-time on this project in these 3 years.
Yeah,
right?
I think it was 3 million, right?
It was almost 4, I think. So
Wow.
I don't know. I'm pretty disappointed with the. Mostly, I mean, from what I can see right now, the gameplay seems fun. That sort of dashing through enemies thing seems to be up my alley, but the art style is just not there. The art style is quite flat and bland.
I think it's fair to say you're probably a little bit younger than me, but I'm still adjusting to it looks like a Dreamcast game being an insult. That was like amazing graphics when I was developing.
Well, yeah, of course. But, I mean, it's a PS4 game, not a Dreamcast game, right? It's a modern console game. I mean, you don't really need much more than that for the style of game format it is, right? But at least if you're gonna do something, at least put some flair in it, you know? I mean, I don't know, the Zelda on the Wii had less good specs, but it looked amazing in terms of its stylized art direction, you know what I mean?
The effects, like the lighting effects and shadows, they can make a huge difference.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And the explosions are absolutely terrible. I don't know if you've seen them.
That's funny. Yeah, I have not been following the project, but it sounds like I will not be buying it.
You might be one of the lucky 50%. I mean,
yeah, that's true.
So, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dave.
I think I will probably be one of the 50% who will actually enjoy it. I think.
Shortcomings aside, it looks fun, right?
Yeah, Shortcomings Society does actually look quite fun, and the high-speed sort of gameplay that people have been saying is not really Mega Man. Well, it's not Mega Man, you know, it's a successor of Mega Man, which should be fine, right? I think I'm still not afraid to give it a go right now.
I feel guilty because I'm usually such a Kickstarter supporter, but I'm glad I missed this because I didn't have to wait 3 years for it, so I'm just excited about it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What's the price point?
I think it's $39, $29.
29. Even if it's 29. Yeah, even if it's 29. I mean, what are the what if you wait 3-4 months, it'll probably be on Steam for 5, right? Like,
yeah.
Well, we'll see how that plays out. Brian, you got anything else on your weekly?
Nope.
All right, David, why don't I throw it on over to you? Let us know what you've been doing all week.
Well, of course, I've been quite occupied with the Kickstarter.
Of course.
The campaign. I've been refreshing that a lot, which is fun. I've written 2 rule books for 2 different games, but I think the nerdiest thing would be the fact that I paid $4 on Humble Bundle just so I can play the Monster Hunter Generations demo before it actually comes out, which is it's going to be free when it comes out, right? but if you got on the Humble Bundle, you could download it now with a code. And I ignored everything else that was on this bundle, which had like I don't know, it had like 16 different game codes, and I only did it for the early access to the Monster Hunter Generations demo. And yeah, I played that a lot, like just killing the same monster over and over again in Monster Hunter. That's what I've been doing every little bit of free time.
Sounds like $4. Sounds like $4 well spent. I mean, you know, gotta pay for convenience.
I guess so. Yeah. I mean, it's for those who can't wait, right? So I guess I deserve it.
Exactly. Very cool. What else? Anything else going on over there in Malta?
Well, it's hot here. It's really hot. Yeah, we had a
Yeah.
heat wave at the end of last week. Now it's calming down a
Oh,
little
wow.
bit. Uh, um, Plan to move in a few months, and I've been also working hard on like trying to meet all of my friends like from different circles. So I've been having a lot
Yeah.
of like little I don't know barbecues or meetups here and there because the Maltese summer started, and that means lots of barbecues and sausages um, all the time, every day, day and night.
Gotcha. Where are you moving? Where are you moving to?
I'm moving to Poland
Oh, wow.
actually. Yeah,
Very cool.
I'm gonna be working on some another. I can't really say a lot. Well,
No problem. No
I'm
worries.
gonna be working on video games there. So
Gotcha.
Nice.
Well, when you can talk about it, we'll have you on again, and you can come on and tell us.
sure.
Cool.
I'd love
Cool.
to do
Awesome. So I guess that rounds it out to me. My week has been pretty geeky. I was at the Origins Game Fair in Columbus, Ohio. That was awesome. Got to check out several new releases, a bunch of new games. I was there with Yellow, or you're familiar with Yellow Games, I'm
that.
sure,
Of
right,
course.
David? Yeah, I do a lot of work for them in sales and marketing and gaming and demoing, and so I was there with them. Had a great time. Was there all week. Actually, my girlfriend, her parents live about 2 hours away in Cleveland, Ohio. So we went there for a few days, stayed with them, and then drove over to Columbus and for the game fair. So that was awesome. I was also there. We're not really a sports show, not many people, and I'm sure not many of our listeners are into sports, but it was pretty nice being there because the Cleveland Cavaliers won the championship, the NBA basketball championship, while I was there. So that was pretty exciting to be there when that everyone was all excited and happy. So that was nice. Just the feeling of everyone being there, all happy. So that was good. Um, what else have I done? Just been playing game nights. Been preparing for Gencon, which I'm sure we'll talk about later on in the show. I'll be there with Yellow as well in a couple months. But I think the biggest thing I've been preparing for is it's my companion. It's going to be her birthday on July 2nd, so I booked us 2 tickets to go skydiving this coming weekend.
Oh wow, that's cool.
So yeah, so I've been trying not to shit my pants for the last week, getting ready mentally, preparing for that. So if I'm not on the show next week, you guys will know why. I'll have plummeted to my death. Knock on wood, hope not. But yeah, so I'm gearing up for that, and yeah, so that's been my week. Just preparing for that, and yeah, playing lots of games, playing lots of board games, and
What have you been playing the most? What's like your new
well,
hot?
it was just because I was at Origins. Well, I mean, I play a lot, anyway during the week, but this past week in Origins, I was just playing. I was just demoing a whole bunch of games. I demoed the new Tyrants of the Underdark, the new D&D.
Okay,
Board game that's coming out. I demoed Total Recall with that Rick and Morty Cryptozoic game.
right.
I demoed Dice City, the new Dice City
That's
expansion.
AEG and Artipia, right?
AEG, yep. I demoed, a ton of games. I demoed, I demoed all of our new Yellow games, obviously. I demoed, what else did I demo? Oh, what was actually awesome was Cryptozoic. I'm a big fan of the DC Deck Builder series,
Mm-hmm.
and so I was in a bunch of tournaments. I won the 2 tournaments I was in. I won. The second one was awesome because it was a look at their new upcoming crossover pack. So it's going to be all the rogues, and they introduced a new mechanic. It's called Team Up. So basically, if you're familiar with DC Deck Builder, you have your deck, you have your discard pile, you have your hand. So when it's your turn, you can basically team up with another player. But it's basically a forced action. You force that player to turn over the top card of their deck, and you get to play that card. What they get then is they get a victory point token for allowing you to basically play the top card of your deck. But it's really cool because there's a lot of new cards that they've introduced that combo off that. So you can basically make everyone turn over the top with one of the cards that I had. You made everyone turn over the top card of your deck so you could see what they had, and then you can decide who you wanted to team up with. And it just, my actual the hero that I was using allowed me to, whenever I played a card that I didn't own, I could draw a card. So it just pulled in a ton of combos for me to do. So that's how I ended up winning the tournament, just because I sort of picked up on the mechanics really quickly. But the coolest thing was that it was just like a prototype. We were basically beta testing their game. They didn't even have like done cards. They were like printed out paper cards, just sleeved. So we were actually helping Matt Hyra, the creator of that game, sort of play test his game. So that was pretty cool. So I'm looking for that to come out. Looking forward to that to come out. And but Origins is more of like a gameplay. I mean, there was some new stuff that was introduced, but really everyone sort of waits for Gencon and then Essen. So
I mean,
really
still the bigger fair.
Exactly.
Is Niet out?
Niet has been out for about a year. Yeah.
Oh, the new version from Yellow. That the one.
Yeah.
That one has been out. Oh, okay. I saw it. I saw it on Board Game Geek a few months back, and I thought it was still to come out. I didn't realize it was actually already out.
Yeah, it came out like third quarter of November, I believe, because I know at BGGCon we had it. BGGCon at Board Game Geek Con at in November, and I think it'd come out a month or so before. But yeah, that's a fun game. If you like trick-taking games and those kind of things, it's pretty fun.
I have Niet in it was part of New and More.
So you have the previous publisher version.
Yes. There's like 6 games in there. One of them is Niet, the other one is Mu, and there are a few other trick-taking style games in there. And Niet is the one is the only one in that set that plays 2-player. So it's one that I've actually managed to. Of course, the new Yellow version looks completely, it's a step above in terms of art. So I really love what they've done with it.
Yeah, well, Yellow, their art is always amazing. That's what I love about them. I see you got some other cool games back there. You got Agricola. What do you got? Catacombs, War of the Ring. War of the Ring is actually my favorite game, by the way.
Really? Is it?
I have I have the collector's edition actually. Yeah, so I love it. I love War of the Ring.
Kemet is quite cool too.
Kemet is awesome. Next to it. Yep, Kemet is great with the pyramids and all that. Yeah, that's a good game.
Yeah, it's a good game.
Very cool.
Very cool. I have Brass here, which is one of my favorites as well.
Brass. Yep.
I really like Brass.
Yeah. So you're into that. It seems like you're into the pretty heavy Euro type games, which makes sense, I guess.
Well, it's quite varied. I mean, I have Chaos in the Old World, which is okay. You could say it's a medium weight Euro as well.
Right.
But I mean, Kemet is an area control.
Right.
But yeah, and there's Earth Reborn there, which I've never played. In terms of American stuff, I don't know. I guess I have Pathfinder and Catacombs, you could say. There's Eclipse over there.
Yeah, Eclipse is a fun game.
Yeah, Eclipse is quite good. The two that I still haven't played, and I have there, but I still haven't played, and Food Chain Magnet.
It's funny. Food Chain Magnet is like crazy here. I mean, you can't even get your hands on a copy, and if you can, people are asking $150, $200 for a copy. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Mine is an Essen copy, and it was still €75, and that was still quite expensive.
Yeah. I haven't played it yet, but I hear it's yeah. I hear it's fun, though.
They said good things about it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, overall, I haven't had time in the last since Essen. Actually, I didn't manage to get the Essen copy, so I was there. Obviously, last year I had 2 releases of my own, right?
Right.
And at Essen, so I was there like a week before to receive the copies into the warehouse there, and I was working with Iraklis, who was publishing, and then we held hands. I was helping him out with logistics and stuff and setting up the booth, and I went to the Splotterspielen booth like before they actually said, okay, we can start selling them. And I went there and I said, like, can you just give it to me, because while I'm demoing, I won't be able to get to come here. I need to be in between 2 booths. And they're like, sorry, we're not opening sales until until Thursday. I'm like, not even press day? You're not opening on press day? Come on. They were like, no, we can't, sorry. And then what happened was that I went at the end, they had sold out. Right, because as soon as we started,
Wow.
on the first day I couldn't go, and then I was like, okay, let me go grab one. And I passed by once, and they were full. And the second time it was always like passing by. I have 5 minutes, but there was like a large queue, so I couldn't wait that long. And when I went there and tried to get it, they
Right.
sold the last copy to the guy who was in front of me in line.
No.
And I was like, no, come on! I came here 6 times, and then they sold them all. Yeah. The game, but then
That's fun.
Richard Rado, Rado
Rado
from
runs
Rado
through.
Runs Through.
Yeah.
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 He lives here in Malta, right? We play together very often, and yeah, he kind of bought the copy, reviewed it, and then I told him, yeah, as soon as you're done from that, you know where it's going. And I bought the copy off of him, and that's
Awesome.
why now it's here.
Very cool. Yeah, I had a similar experience with Mysterium last year at Gencon. I was there waiting in line because they wouldn't sell to people who, I tried to do the same thing. I tried to go early 'cause with my yellow with my yellow credentials, I could get in early, and they were like, nope, sorry, you got to stand in line just like everyone else. And they literally sold the last copy that I wanted to get to the guy in front of me. They basically were handing out little Dixit cards to people because they only had a certain amount. Giving cards, bam, and the guy in front of me got one, and they were like, sorry, and we all were done. I think I'd rather be like 20 back than like the last the bubble guy. That's terrible. But,
yeah, it is.
But I ended up getting it. That's the thing. It's like okay, you don't get it then, but you get it later. You know what I mean? It's not hard to get it later.
Especially if it's an Asmodee
Right.
release. I mean.
So all right. So now that our geeklies are rounded up, let me go in. I typically do the news, so I guess I'll sort of do that as well, along with my hosting duties. And I have a few just interesting stories I found in the news, and then once we get through those, we'll jump into our topic. So apparently, Disney is going to bring Indiana Jones. Well, they are bringing back Indiana Jones for another movie, and they're planning to not just have it for the 5th movie, but continue to go on with several other movies.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I don't know
The
the 5th
lead
film.
actor.
I don't think they know yet. Let's see the film the 5th film is supposed to be out July 19th, 2019. So that's what, three years from now? Yeah. So I don't even know if they've started casting or what they're doing yet, but they definitely are doing the July 19th, 2019 release, and then Disney CEO has basically said, yes, we're also going to have even more, and they are wanting it to be on par with their Star Wars releases. So they're basically trying to create a universe for Raiders that they did with Star Wars. So we'll see how they do with that. I mean, I love the original Raiders and the original trilogy. So let's see how they do with I guess the quote unquote reboot.
Yeah, you could say that.
Yeah. Have you guys been playing Doom 2 at all? The new Doom?
Tom will kill me. No.
No.
Well, apparently, a guy by the name of, let me see if I can find him here. A guy by the name of Doug Keener. He spent over 100 hours to create a Seinfeld apartment. So the show Seinfeld, David.
Yeah.
Basically, he created the apartment with Jerry and George and all those guys, and you can go in there and basically shoot them up with your 12-gauge shotgun. so you can shoot up the Jerry Seinfeld apartment in the new Doom with a mod.
Wow, that is dedication.
Yeah, 100 hours. To spend 100 hours on something just so you can shoot up Seinfeld. You either got to be a super fan or a super hater of that show.
Yeah. I mean.
So apparently they think that within the next 1,500 years, if there are aliens out there, they will contact us.
That's a very broad guess.
Yeah, 1,500 years. I mean, I guess that leaves a lot. Well, I mean, I guess in the scheme of the planetary age. It's not that big of a time frame, but they think that because they've calculated the statistics and probability, and they've come up with this thing called the Fermi paradox, and they think that about 1,500 years is as late as 1,500 years, but could be sooner. Just analysis of probability, because of so many signals we've sent out. They basically think that we've already could have contacted aliens by now, because within the time span of the last however long we've been sending out radio signals, we've probably hit places that are about 80 light years away. So over the next however many years, that's just going to keep growing exponentially. But then of course it's going to take time for them to decipher the signals and then decide what to send back if they do want to send something back. So they've given themselves about a 1,500-year cushion. But then of course you listen to Stephen Hawking, and he says we probably don't want to hear from aliens because that's not going to work out very well for us. Didn't work out very well for the Indians here in the United States. And last but not least, Walmart. Speaking of interlopers and destructive empires, Walmart is, within the next 10 years, going to turn its shopping carts into robots that follow you. So they're going to have robotic shopping carts. They've acquired a robotics company, and they're working on self-driving technology for their shopping carts to follow you around the aisles so that you're free to, browse and pick up whatever you want. You don't have to push the cart. I don't know. I think that's kind of cool, but I don't know.
Sounds
shopping cart goes crazy.
Gimmicky at best to me.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. We always talk about that, especially in games too. It's like, I'm all for advancement in games and video games and things like that, but don't give me something that's just a gimmick that I don't know if you remember Gollum Arcana, where it's sort of like you used it with a tablet, and it was like a miniature sort of board game.
Yes, I remember. That was the first kind of sort of iPad hybrid sort of thing.
Right. But the thing was, it was like more hassle than it was. I could just roll the dice and do it myself. I don't need to do all the things that it wanted me to do in order to play the game. So don't give me something just for a gimmick. Give me something that's going to be practical and add value to the gameplay, not just be there to be there.
How was the XCOM game?
XCOM is I haven't had much experience with XCOM.
I've never played a more stressful game.
Really?
Is that a good thing?
I would never ever play it with new people, like people who know how to play games and people who are dedicated to learning something. But it's timed. You get 90 seconds to take your turn sometimes, and bad stuff happens if you take 91 seconds. So it's super do it, go. And then technically it's cooperative, but your 5 people are yelling at you to hurry, and
that's actually kind of a good thing though, especially Brian, in our gaming group there's people that take forever to take their turns,
I think 90 minutes is a little long for a term too, but 90 seconds is...
Yeah. That's pretty quick. All right, so that rounds out the news for me, and so we're going to sort of push into our topic, which is sort of an Origins recap, but, the real sort of reason we're here is because we want to talk to David about his new game, Days of Ire, Budapest 1956. So, David, why don't you sort of... give us an overview on yourself, just for the listeners. We know obviously because we've looked you up and we talked to you, but why don't you sort of let the listeners know a little bit about yourself and what you've worked on and what you're working on now, and definitely tell us about Days of Ire.
Sure, definitely. So I'm David. I'm 25 years old. I'm from Malta, which is a very small island south of Italy, and I've been making games since 2014. My first published game would be, at least my first released game to the public would be And Then We Held Hands, which is a 2-player cooperative game about saving a broken relationship, and that one was originally a print and play that we released, and it won the Golden Geek for best print and play, and people were quite excited about it, and then it got picked up by a publisher, and yeah, I think, and that one's been quite a success. It's got this sort of thing where you can't talk to each other about the game itself, so it eliminates the leading player problem in cooperative games, and really forces you to communicate with the partner by not through the strategy, but I mean, not through the game itself, and through, you know, body language and stuff like that, and the not talking mechanic tries to replicate sort of the feeling of when communication problems in a relationship are taking over, and there are lots of things that you say and do, but you never actually talk about, right? And there's a lot of information that you're giving your partner, but you're not telling them straight up, very clearly, and this is what it tries to replicate. Then a few months later, I released, Artipia did The Pursuit of Happiness, and there was a Kickstarter for it, actually, for the second edition earlier this year. A worker placement where time is your workers and you're building your life. So I like to call it if the game of life was actually good, right? Was actually a game. And yeah, it's been well received too. Then I worked on Posthuman last year as well. I was a developer on Posthuman, and I was project leader on the Kickstarter campaign, and team to getting the game done, essentially. So I got a lot of experience in terms of more from the manufacturing and publishing side. I was more involved in that process in Posthuman, and now I'm doing Days of Ire, which is basically Twilight Struggle and Pandemic combined.
Wow.
That's what it is, basically. It takes elements from both and makes a one versus many game. So you have one player playing the Soviet player who's playing a sort of Twilight Struggle-esque card-driven mechanic, whilst the opponent, which could be from 1 up to 3 revolutionaries, are playing as a sort of cooperative game, trying to deal with the situation, the theater that the Soviet player creates, right? And basically, for 7 days, there's a threshold of there's 4 events that can be on the board. If they manage to keep it below that, then 4 or below, then they win the game. And there are, of course, other ways to win and lose. There are some other win-loss conditions, like the revolutionaries clearing out the board from Soviet troops, or the Soviets killing one of the revolutionaries, or the Soviets dropping the morale down for the revolutionary side, and then fizzles off, right? Because they don't have the will to keep going with the revolution. And well, it comes also, you can play it like this, but then we introduced also a co-op variant. So, well, it's a co-op mode rather than a variant, where you can play as the revolutionaries against an Automa Soviet player, right? And that extends the game to a 4-player co-op game. Play it solo, so it has this sort of really multi-mode way of playing things.
Cool. Very cool. Sounds awesome. So I've seen the Kickstarter. Now, give us the idea behind doing. You just did. You know, a lot of Kickstarters have many different levels of pledges, things like that. You guys only have basically 2 pledge levels. Give us sort of the idea behind that.
Well, I mean, for us, the game, we said, okay, we're gonna make the game the best we can right from the start, right? So it was basically, do you want a copy of the game or do you not want a copy of the game? So our pledge levels are in fact a copy of the game or 10 copies of the game, to make it easier for those who have problems with shipping, right? Like Australia, and so that makes, or anyone who wants to get the game cheaper, right? So we offer the discounted rate there. So even the stretch goals, for instance, most of them are most of them are small add-ons that add a little bit of replayability, right? Because we had already put as much as we can into the game, and then we're just rounding the package and making it an even better, like better quality and better sort of some alternate stuff, some promo cards, just so that the Kickstarter backers have access to something exclusive, you know.
Right.
So I mean, there wasn't really too much reason for us. We didn't. It's Cloud Island, which is the company, the new company that we founded to make Days of Fire, being the first Kickstarter campaign on our own. It helps to keep things centralized and keep things small, so that we can move along fast, right? Stretch goals and multiple pledge levels and all of these different complicated things tend to add a lot to the production time of a game. And I mean, we are in a situation where we can hit the print button less than a week after the end of the campaign, and that would mean that the backers could be getting their copies as early as this October. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Of course, we gave a bit of time for us because things do crop up, but by doing it this way, we would keep things more manageable. We keep things more contained to allow less of a pot, basically.
Right.
That's the main concept.
No, I think that's a great idea, and I like that because I basically stopped backing Kickstarters unless they have. I like what you said about giving exclusive content to the backers, because what burns me the most is I'll really get excited about a game, I'll back it for 50, 60 bucks, whatever it is, then basically they have my money for 6 months or however long it takes for them to fulfill the reward, and then I get my game right around or even sometimes after the game comes out in retail. And I don't know if you know, over here, online retailers they give steep discounts, like 30%. Like, game comes out, the MSRP is $100. You can get it for $70 on Amazon or on some of these other online discounters or whatever. So I paid $100 for the game. Someone else can and they've had my money for 6 months, and then someone can buy exactly what I'm getting in the mail for $30 cheaper. I don't mind paying the extra money, because I like to fund and help new games and independent people, start, bring their games out. But, give me some promo cards. Give me something that's different than, the retail version. You know what I mean?
I think it's important. I mean, even for us, like we made it very clear that, listen, if you back the Kickstarter, we will make sure that we will ship your copies, well before the game hits retail, because that's a really terrible thing. And I mean, the difference was even years. I mean, if you look like at I don't know, one thing that comes up to mind is Myth, for instance. A project which took 2 years to come out, then went into retail, and they hadn't even started sending out the Kickstarter copies then. And you could buy it at in the shops. I mean, if you can buy it at Essen, I guess that's okay. Because
it's limited. I mean, there's only a few people that are going to be able to buy it.
Yeah, exactly. It's only a few, and it really helps the game if you can launch it there. Right. In terms of getting the buzz going, getting people to talk about it, you need to show it, and it's much better if you have a few copies to sell as well, right? But retail is a different thing, and we've also given much more than the discount than the retail price actually is. People who go for the 10 copy pledge, they're getting it around like 50% of the MSRP. So it's a heavily discounted in terms of when it compared to the MSRP. I mean, the MSRP is similar to Twilight Struggle, right? On this one, it's a similar component game, similar style. I think that we've upped the bar in terms of visual style and art. We have Moria, we have Sami Lasko doing the graphic design, and I think the game looks stunning, especially for a historical game. I don't think there is another historical game that looks so iconic as this one does, and we're really proud of what we've managed to do with the visual style, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I love the art on this. Yeah, and because usually these historical games are so stuffy. They're just very just simple and straightforward. But I like what you guys have done with this. It's really cool.
Yeah, so there are many reasons why we've chosen to keep it simple, but mostly being, look, the game is ready, the game is balanced. The thing is here is that there are two asymmetrical sides, and they're not just like Twilight Struggle, two players playing a similar game. They are asymmetrical because they have different cards and stuff, but they're playing this game. This is a game system balanced against another completely different game system balanced against, and it's what's important, one versus many sort of games like Descent, for instance, and Catacombs and everything like that. Generally, it's the overlord player, if you can call it that, is a player who is playing a game where he's like a game master, right? He's trying to often. I mean, I found myself very often when playing Descent needing to tone down I'm not playing optimally, so to make sure that the other four players are having fun as well, right? And this happens again in Catacombs, one versus many games, which kind of makes it a little bit for the overlord player who feels like a bunch of kids are trying to beat him. I mean, the only game maybe that I've played that doesn't really do that, and is probably harder for the overlord, is which is called the anime one from Z-Man, Tragedy Looper.
Yeah, that's a good game. I actually like that game.
Ours is definitely tight. So it's head-to-head. You don't want to pull any punches. You don't want to play easy on each other. You both of you are fighting against each other. And what's cool about it is that it can allow for players of different levels to play at the same level, because the Twilight Struggle-esque game is quite deep, quite difficult, and you need to learn the cards, you need to understand what they do. There's lots of intricacies in the play. Whilst the co-op is a little bit more easy to get into, right? Because one, you're playing with others, and two, it's around pandemic without expansions in terms of weight, right? So what you have is a situation where a wargamer who wants to play with his family and with his wife and kids can do that, right? While still being in a situation where they can compete against each other, and both of them are playing an equally compelling game, where both of them are to be able to win according to how well they play up in their own skill, right? And this is something that takes a long time to get the balance right, and that's why the stretch goals have been relatively conservative, in my opinion, than many others have. But all of this is because we know what we're doing, right? Yeah. Because we know our game well, we know how much our game can take in terms of additions and all of this different stuff. So that's why we're focusing on maturating up the game in terms of, I don't know, there's the linen finish, and we've upgraded the rule books now so that we have dedicated rule books. One rule book for those who want to play the versus game, and one rule book for those who want to play the co-op game. So they don't have to read the whole VS game and then the co-op is a variant at the back. If you want to play the co-op game, you just grab the co-op rule book and read that one, right? And if you wanna switch to the other, you'll have a section in the back which says, okay, so you've play the game, but you have dedicated rule books, and these are things that just enhance the game experience overall without offsetting this delicate balance that we've worked for months on, right?
Very cool. Yeah. Well, you've convinced me. I just, while we were talking, just pledged for the game, and I'm hoping that our listeners and viewers will also do the same. I wanted to go back. My phone. And I want to. I actually want to go back to and then we held hands. I've actually played that game. I like that game a lot. My question is less about the game mechanics, more about. So were you the that's your game, that's your baby. You designed that yourself.
Me with Yannick, yes. Yannick was
So was this like a like, you know, did that come from like a past relationship? Is that where you got the idea for the game, or was it, you know, did you have a bad breakup and then you decided, you know what, I need to make a game that sort of represents this, or?
Look, at the time, both Yannick and I were going through a difficult period in our own relationships, but we had not mentioned any of this to each other while we were making the game. We made the game in a 48-hour game jam, right?
Okay.
So we didn't talk to each other about it. We didn't know that both of us were in this situation, but we were both in this difficult period in the relationship. And then it came out, I think it was when we were writing designer diaries. We had designer diaries posted on Board Game Geek, and we wrote them separate from each other, and we both kind of sort of declared, you know what, I was going through a difficult period at the time, and then when we read each other's diaries, we were like, oh, that explains a lot. You know what I mean? Because we hadn't ever mentioned anything to each other. But I mean, yes, I mean, for such an but the experience can be of playing that game can be quite intimate. Can be quite.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had games where things got pretty touching in terms of how the game plays, and when there is the synergy, when the two players do interact and manage to understand each other, there are so many. Like you set something up for your opponent, you can't tell them what you've set up for them, right? And there's a really good move. The opponent picks up on it, and your opponent does what you're expecting them to do, and at that moment there's just this moment of satisfaction of like, oh my god, I'm in sync with this person right now. Right. We both know what we're doing. We are in the zone, right? And that feeling, that particular feeling, is just absolutely great. And it doesn't have to be, of course. I mean, one of the biggest like not criticisms, but the biggest questions that was on Board Game Geek, like, do I have to play this with my is it weird if I play this with my sister? If I play this with my friends, you know, and the answer is obviously no. But I can see how it can become sort of like if you role play too much, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Of course, some of the best games I've played. I mean, I've played them with Yannick, who is my co-designer, right, on the game, and we're definitely never dating, but still, we're still feeling of like, oh, I got you, man. You know, I got you. Right. We're in this together, and we're figuring it out, and that's something that is really cool. I find. I like.
Yeah, no, I love the game. Yeah, I love it. I think it's such a refreshing difference. You know what I mean? You know, you can. There's so many fantasy games, you know, fighting games, dungeon crawlers, you know, all kinds of things that are out on the market, and I just think it's completely different and refreshing. So I really like that game a lot. And I know Posthuman, great game. They played a lot at our local game store, our sponsor, the Adventure Game Store here in South Florida. They sponsor our podcast. We play it there quite often. My question for that is, the one thing that I will say, and I'm gonna criticize a little bit, but don't take it as a bad criticism. It's just my own preference. I hate games. Well, I don't hate games. I actually like that game, but I hate when games have just so many components that it's almost like, to me, it's like almost unmanageable. If you get what I'm saying, because so like, and maybe that's just because I'm older. You're 25. I'm significantly older. So like, I'm used to having like, you know, a board, maybe some components, and everything sort of goes together very easily in the box, you know. Whereas in Posthuman, you've got just piles and piles and piles of different little counters and food and this and that, and you know. So I guess maybe I'd like your insight on you know, what the thinking is behind that, and because I see that trend is definitely going in that direction. Because a lot of games I see coming out now just have a ton of components, and I'm wondering what the thinking behind that is from a design standpoint.
Okay, so Posthuman, the designer of Posthuman, Gordon, a great friend of mine. I develop most of his games. Comes from a role-playing background, tabletop role-playing background, right? So Posthuman was a game that was trying to replicate the concept of emergent narrative. It's a story game. It's not.
Right.
It creates a story, right? And there are, in my opinion, there are two ways to be able to do a story, to be able to have an emergent narrative. One of which is allow the players to make their own story, right, which is the way And Then We Held Hands went, where it's basically an abstract game which is themed, but you're trying you're allowing the players to make their own connections, right? The other option is to create yourself enough variables so that players can find the game is created as you play physically and is different every time, right? So it's, I guess, it's of the heavy gameplay and the sort of like table and numbers that the role players and the sort of thing that Gordon is familiar with, and the addition of this thing that we want the game to kind of sort of, as you progress, create a different story every time. So you need enough stuff, you know, in there for the story to come through. And yes, I mean, Posthuman is maybe inflated. Could you call it that way? It's a bloated game, right?
Yeah.
And it's meant to be that way because that is what Posthuman wants to be. It wants to be this raw, this sprawling sort of epic sort of journey where you're meeting these sort of people and you're trying to kind of sort of really trying to simulate that system, the being without food, the difficulty of running out of ammo, and each bullet really makes a big difference, right? The different sort of minions and people that you can meet, and the combination of each, and the story that those create, right? And the concept was to create the lots of moving parts that then kind of gel together, gel together to create something different every time. And if you play Posthuman, it's not a very complicated game. It's not a very, I mean, it's a relatively simple game to play, right? But it does have a number of rules, and it has a lot of cards and things on the table because you're flipping and you're joining all of these gears that come together to form something different every time.
Right.
So it was intentional. It's partly the design style that Gordon wanted to put into the game. It's the philosophy of the emergent narrative. And that sort of sprawling nature that we wanted to create, and all of the things are there for a reason. You know, every single little mechanic adds a little bit to this. And yes, this creates a situation where there are things you need to learn, and there are a lot of things to handle on the board. But then it kind of comes together at the end to and it's satisfying, especially for the people who have backgrounds like Gordon has, of course. I mean, for me, for instance, I'm much more. But I'm a much more elegant type of designer, right? If I can do something with two cards, I wouldn't do it with four. You know what I mean? And if I can do something, if something is, I don't know, can be smaller, shave it off until it's the smallest it can be. And when I was developing Posthuman, I did do that. But I also needed to understand what Gordon wanted, and I needed to take a step back in terms of paring down to allow his game to be what he wanted it to be, right? I mean, if I had done Posthuman only by myself, then it would be a much smaller box. But I think I like how Posthuman turned out in terms of how it veers off a little bit from the current sort of trend of making things and completely elegant and just like really straight in because it fills this niche in a way of slightly more sprawling games. And I mean, you'll never have the same game twice with Posthuman. It's impossible. We calculated it. It's physically impossible to have the exact same game with Posthuman twice unless you play more than 500 games, and that's cool, you know, and that's something from variables to allow you to out of the box, you know, without and that's the thing that I mean, Posthuman has a lot of things in the base box, right? A lot of things that perhaps other publishers would have put in as 2 more expansions, you know what I mean? Right. in the base box to create the replayability and sprawlingness of it all. And maybe it would have been better in terms of getting people sort of into it in terms of stream the learning process, right? Because you would learn the basic mechanics, and then you will throw in another expansion which brings it to what we want it to be. But we wanted it to be what it is, Posthuman, this thing. Right. You know what I mean? And I think looking back, you know, maybe it would have been a better business model to do it that way. Maybe it would have been perhaps easier for people to get into it. It wouldn't.
Yeah, it wouldn't be the same
right?
game.
It wouldn't be the same game.
No, but I don't get me wrong. I love the game. I love to play it. And I'm sort of like, you know, I'm an old school guy too. I mean, I got my Pathfinder rulebook here sitting right next to me. You know what I mean? So I'm sort of the old school, you know, RPG type guy. But the only issue I had was, like I said, so we'll be sitting there and we're deciding what we want to play, and someone will say, hey, let's play Posthuman, and then we all sort of look at each other and it's like, okay, who's going to set it up and who's going to put it away? You know what I mean? That's like, it creates sort of like a little bit of a barrier to play, because no one wants to set it up and then put it away, because it's like a million different components altogether. But, you know, I guess if you want the gameplay, you got to sort of, you know, put up with whatever you got to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, at least we made the game, you know.
Oh no, it's a great game.
We made
great game. It's a great game.
It's out there, you know. And we love to play it.
Yeah, no, it's an absolutely great game. And the last thing I wanted to ask you about was Artropia. I think that's how you.
Yeah.
That's a Greek company, right?
Yes, a Greek publisher.
And I think I noticed behind you a game that I have. I was in Greece recently in March, and I picked up a game called Lap Dance.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I saw that on the back on your shelf over there. So yeah, exactly. Yeah, I have the same game actually. That's funny that. So you've done work with them as well?
Yes, The Pursuit of Happiness, which is another game which is designed by me, is published by them.
Oh, very.
And well, the US version is being done by Stronghold.
Oh, Stronghold, very cool. Okay.
So yeah, Artipia are the original publishers of the game. We did the first edition in Essen last year, which was a limited printer of around 300 copies and sold out there at Essen. And then early this year, we did a Kickstarter and we raised more than $100,000 to make the second edition, which is going to be published in the US by Stronghold and is shipping right now. It's shipping to backers right now, so hopefully there'll be a lot more going on Board Game Geek when people start getting the game and playing it. But I mean, the reviews have all been amazingly positive on how good a story it manages to create, and that was exactly our goal. So Adrian and I are really, really happy reaching our goal and making this really highly thematic story-making game in a way that, I mean, the game works in a way that by the end of the game, you finished your story arc and you finished your game, and then everyone in the rulebook we said now everyone look at your cards, look at what you've become, and tell us your story, right? And then you just look at your cards and you say, okay, so it seems that I've become an accountant who is ripped, bought a car and a yacht and had a turtle. You know what I mean? During his life. And then the next player says, I never got a job, but I managed to start a band. I managed to to act in a play. I managed to direct a film. I managed to make a board game, and I did something else. You know what I mean? And that was what was so cool about the creation concept that there is in it. The basic concept of it is you're spending time, and there are three main resources. That's creativity, knowledge, and influence. Influence is like how good you are with people, charisma, you know. And you manage these resources to try to get happiness, right? But there is no single good way to get happiness. The player who dies the happiest wins, right? It goes from when you're a baby up until you die, and you can. And the die, you could, in fact, there are some goals, like there's a goal called Live Fast and Die Young, which basically gives you extra points. If you go full on and like do too many things, because basically the more stuff you take on, the more stress you take, and if the stress reaches a certain threshold, it can never go back down that threshold unless you get a specific type of card which allows you to recover. And this duplicates your health as how much stress you put onto yourself, and you could if you just push it right up until you die before everyone else, right? But that does not mean that you will lose, because if you manage to die happier than anyone else manages to be, right, and then you win anyway, and that's what's so cool about it. And you don't need to get a job. You can still win without getting a job. You can win by getting a job and then buying lots of stuff before you die, you know, just splurging, if that's one way you want to do it, you know. You have limited time. Each turn you have 7 time,
Gotcha.
right? And the more things you take on, like there are things that take on like permanent upkeep time. So if you get a partner and you develop that partner to the 3rd level, which is where you're gonna have kids, right? You're gonna have a stable relationship with children. Then you're dedicating 30, 40, 50, even 60% of your time tokens to maintaining this commitment that you by turn bonus. This replicates, you know, look, I have this huge commitment that I've taken, and I only have 2 or 3 more time tokens to spend, and this is made on purpose to reflect what real life is like, right? If you have a wife, if you have 2 kids, and you have a job, then you're not gonna have a lot more time to do I don't know, your personal projects, right? And but this is the life you chose, and this life can win you the game. It can bring you happiness. Some others decide stuff and take a job and try to go straight for the level 3, develop the job, get promotions, and then retire early, and that can give you also a really nice bonus point. Some others never get a job and just do cheap personal projects and have a pet that they try to feed. But if you get a pet, you need to feed it every turn, otherwise you lose the pet. And if you get a job, you need to feed that job every turn, in terms of, like, if you get a job that is based on creativity, you need to, otherwise you lose it, you know. And all of these really, really highly thematic Euro mechanics. That's what I like to call it. It's like a highly, extremely thematic Euro.
Right. Very cool. Very cool. Brian, you have any questions?
So I've actually never played And Then We Held Hands or Pursuit of Happiness. Are they available in America yet, or?
Yes. And Then We Held Hands was released on this year in the US. And The Pursuit of Happiness is probably still coming out, again, from Stronghold. The Kickstarter copies are printed and they are shipping now. So I would say that it will be available in the very near future. But And Then We Held Hands is definitely available in the US.
I love the emergent narrative, shared narrative. That's just a personal theme of mine. I love to see it in board games. I can't think of too many games like that.
No, there aren't many. I think it does fill in a specific niche of. I mean, there's CV, of course, that does this whole life thing, but it doesn't do it as well as in terms of story building and really thematic play, as well as The Pursuit of Happiness. And of course, I'm biased when I say this, but but I'm pretty confident that if you play both of them, you will say, holy crap, yeah, it creates a story, creates a life. Whilst well, CV is more it's a great game, but it's more of a sort of it's a lot less complicated. It's a dice rolling game, right? So it's a little more lucky. Whilst in the Pursuit of Happiness, you're making choices. You're deciding how you want to spend your time to do one of the many things that you can do in the game, and that puts it at a different sort of position. Right?
Very cool. All right. Well, I really want to thank you for coming on, David. Why don't you let us know where all the listeners and the viewers can find you? You know, Facebook, Twitter, all that good stuff. Email, however they can, find you, contact you.
Sure, they can find me on Twitter. At David Chircop. Right now, it's the Cloud Island account. They can go on Kickstarter and check out Days of Our Camp. Days to go. I highly suggest that you get on in it. It's going to be great. It's a really, really, really great game. I'm impressed with what the designers have managed to do on Days of Fire. I think it's fantastic. Again, I'm probably biased, but I'm honest as well. I'm on Facebook, David Chircop. You can find me there. You can send me an email at david@cloudislandgames.com or david@davidchircop.com. I have a website with a little bit of a portfolio of what I've done as well, which is davidchircop.com. Yeah, I guess those are the places where I generally hang out. Send me an email, send me a Twitter message, and we'll get talking. I'd love to talk to people.
Awesome. Well, we really want to thank you for coming on and talking with us. We've had a great time talking games with you. It's one of my favorite tabletop games. Is my favorite thing to talk about. So
Me too.
I'm glad we at least, if nothing else, at least we got to talk about it. You know what I mean? But thank you for coming on. And Brian, why don't you give us your little end of the deal spiel?
Well, first off, thanks, man. Thanks for me too. You mean wrap it up?
Let's wrap it on up. No problem.
Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, add us to your Google circles, and join the Nerdstravaganza HQ group on Facebook.
Yeah, check out our website, nerdstravaganza.com, where you can check out this and all of our back episodes. Check out YouTube for all of our video content. Just type Nerdstravaganza into the search bar, and all of our video content will come up. And send us an email at nerdstravaganza@gmail.com. Let us know what you're playing, whether or not you've backed Days of Ire, which you should have by now, and anything else that's on your mind. And with that, Brian, take us away.
Thanks again, David.
All right. David, thanks,
Thank you, guys.
All right.
So much.
Thanks
so much for having me.
Thanks for your time. Sorry we kept you up so late.
It's fine. It's fine. Something
What's that? Hello? I think we lost David.